All right, man, listen. Today we got also Rusty Buckets. He's doing a video on why Stephen Curry might lead the Warriors. The Warriors, they have been having a tragic offseason, man, with the departure of Klay Thompson, losing Chris Paul for nothing, and then just picking up on just role players and filler players. I feel like that young players can actually show some experience, but it might be a bad season for the Warriors if they don't understand how to put it together. Losing Klay Thompson might help them find that draft to figure out how to put it together, but at the end of the day, we're gonna have to see it. We're gonna have to see it to believe it and see what they do this offseason. I want to see what also Rusty Buckets has to say about it. So shout out to him, and let's get right into the video.
Description. But with that said, let's talk about Stephen Curry, who recently made a couple of comments. The main lines here, because this was quite a bit of words here, so I'll just give you the key notes. He said he wanted to be a Warrior for life, but also that I'll continue to make the decisions that are best for me and my career at the end of the day. If there is a situation where you're a bottom feeder and it's just because you want to stay there, I'd have a hard time with that. Also adding that he doesn't think that's going to be a reality. Also, a few weeks ago, saying to Yahoo Sports, I can clearly say that I want to be a Warrior for life, but like you said, life, and especially life in the NBA, is a wild environment, and things change quickly.
So, like, before we move on from that, I do understand what Curry's saying. So it's like, if y'all just okay with being bottom feeders, why y'all got this great player and are okay with just selling out tickets because of him without trying to compete, he doesn't feel that's fair to his talent, so he might want to take it somewhere else. I can understand that 100%. You feel me? And he also is saying that like the NBA, bro, the lifespan in the NBA is 10 years. Like in the NBA, you are a hamster, bro. For real, you're literally a hamster. The lifespan is only 10 years. So if you spent, like, they've just spent the last 4 or 5 years just up and down, missing the playoffs, going to the play-ins. No, going to the play-ins. Barely getting out the first round, barely getting out the second round. You know what I'm saying? Barely winning the championship. I ain't gonna let it kind of dead dog walk the Celtics, but you feel me? Like, life in the NBA is fast. He went from 18 to 20. 18 to 30, and usually that's the end of a lot of people's careers, but he was able to take it to 35. So it's like, he not wrong for the Warriors. Y'all better step it up.
Life in the NBA is a wild environment, and things change quickly. It's fair to say that things have changed quickly, especially when you take a look at just how just 2 years ago this team was hoisting a championship, and now this roster is destitute. There is just nothing going on with this team beyond Stephen Curry for the most part. There are some young guys to have some excitement about. Obviously, they just lost Klay in this previous offseason, and while signings like DeAnthony Melton are cool, we're very far from addressing the root issue with this team. And if you look at this roster...
Yeah, I personally don't feel like they have a championship team. Just like, if we look back at the roster that he just showed us, I did not see a championship team, bro. I seen a bunch of scrubs. I seen the sweaty old musty man, Draymond Green, and then I seen Stephen Curry. Steph, you might want to leave now. I ain't gonna lie to you. You might want to leave now.
Who on this team is gonna score more than 20 points a game besides for Steph and like Jonathan Kuminga?
Who on the team is gonna score more than 12 points efficiently, day in and day out?
Guess if we're officially embracing him as a future player for this team. But otherwise, nobody on this team can really score the ball all that well. There are guys who can do their role on offense but are not initiating the offense in any capacity. And Stephen Curry is super old. He is 35, going to be 36 next season. So to have all that weight on his shoulders as the franchise leading option, it's not what he has been used to. Obviously, we think the concept of Steph being like a loyal is there, but I don't know if that's necessarily true so much as he's had no reason to be disloyal. Because From the moment that Stephen Curry was a bona fide superstar in the league, which was 2015, they immediately won the championship. And then they continued to win championships from there. So there's really no reason for Steph to have felt any inclination to leave the franchise. Staying with the Warriors was the best move for his career objectively, not just what's best for his legacy or what he personally.
Give me 1 to 2 weeks, and I'll.
And this is the thing about when NBA teams have championship rosters. Like, yeah, the player might be great, but is the front office great? You know what I'm saying? Like, the player might be great, but can you sustain that greatness over a long period of time? Excuse me. Do you know how to put the right people around him to make sure that he continues to stay great? Do you know how to put the right pieces around him to maximize his potential? You know what I'm saying? Like it takes the front office and the player. And the player doesn't always have those years. You know what I'm saying? Front office, they sometimes waste the first 4 or 5 years of a player's career just getting it together. You see what I'm saying? So I see what he said, man. He didn't have no reason to leave, so it, like, you feel me? We gotta see what y'all do now. Is the front office gonna be able to buckle up, because they've been fucking shitting turd for the last 6 years, bro. They've been shitting turds. They made some good moves here and there, but like they could have been better. If you honestly feel like the Warriors, like, this is the best that it could have got over the last couple years, like I feel like you're just lying, man.
What he personally enjoys and wants. But now we're seeing a different situation. There is a lot of reason to not want to be with this franchise right now when there really has never been that much pressure in that regard before. That is a difficult situation where I really don't know that the Warriors can do much to avoid Steph eventually leaving this team unless they really do something dramatic. Because, yeah, does Steph want out right now? Definitely a no. However, it's what I would call like a Bradley Beal no, which is like, yeah, this guy is saying he doesn't want to be gone, but does he actually feel that way? Or maybe he just isn't all the way there yet and he's kind of dipping his toe in those waters, that leaving the door open.
Stephen Curry with LeBron James? Stephen Curry to the Lakers? Am I predicting it now? Stephen Curry to the Lakers?
Open to the potential of it. I think that's very much intentional. Whereas if you asked Stephen Curry a couple of years ago that if he wanted out, it wouldn't have had some like open door thing at the end of it. It would have been a very clear, definitive, I want to be a Warrior for life and I have no reason to leave. With Golden State losing Klay Thompson, obviously that good bit of continuity and the more nostalgic element of as a reason to stay around, that's gone. The vibe of the franchise is just inherently going to be a little bit different. Not that Klay Thompson was necessarily positively contributing to the vibe the last couple of years, though we did discuss in the recent video about the Mavericks how like Klay was kind of screwed by his role with the Warriors the last 2 seasons or so. But one way or the other, the Steph, Draymond, Klay trio has been.
I know this video is about the Warriors, but I am curious to see how Klay Thompson is going to thrive in Dallas. I'm curious to see how he's going to play. I'm curious to see how they're going to use him. I'm curious to see what his strength and his strength and weaknesses are going to stay the same, or is he going to evolve as a player, or you know what I'm saying? Because obviously, he might be the same player. They might just throw him in the corner. If he goes cold, they might put him on the bench. You know what I'm saying? But I want to see if he takes this as an opportunity to become a new Klay Thompson and do something different with himself and at least thrive in a different role. Like, create a different role for yourself. Thrive at creating a different role for yourself. You have a new team, new environment. You're going to be given new strings to pull. So I feel like you should have the power to create the role that you want to create. You know what I'm saying? As long like everything has limitations, and you still have to play your role in the system, because Luka and Kyrie are both the guys. But I feel like that you can sort of take control, man. That's basically what I'm saying. You can sort of take control at least be a different Klay Thompson, or you know what I'm saying, just show us a little different, or maybe you can just torch it, just sit in the corner and just torch it all day. Maybe they just have you sitting in there and torturing it all day if that's how you want to play, you know. Or
Broken
they gonna
up.
have
And
him
if you're
doing all the
looking at the
screens, or if
rest
they
of
just
this
gonna have him
roster,
sitting,
there's
or if they
just
gonna have him
not
like
a
doing something
lot
else.
of players that
If he gonna
are
learn to cut.
super reliable. In fact, actually, after Steph and Draymond, there are only 5 players over the age. Outside of Steph and Draymond, this is a young-ass team. Including those two, there's only 5 players over the age of 30, and most of them are really not all that good, one of them being Chris Paul. Their 2 young, bright players are Brandon Pajimski and Jonathan Kuminga. They're both good, but they're not like holy shit jump off of the page insanely good young players. They're not guys who are going to elicit a crazy amount of assets.
They're not Scotty Barnes. They're not Paulo Banchero. They're not Tyrese Halliburton. Who else? Who else? They not even a Tyler Hero. They not even Tyler Hero, man. It's just say it.
They're good young guys who can get you something good, and I think if you paired them plus some future draft capital, you could potentially land yourself a star player. But at that point, your roster would also be significantly depleted. I don't really see a version of this roster coming together, even over the next 2 years, where you have a secondary star who can allow Stephen Curry to be Stephen Curry without the pressures of just wholly carrying the franchise on his own. And then also you have depth beyond that. I just don't necessarily see that happening. And if it does happen, it's going to come together in a very shoddy and short-sighted way where injuries are going to be a factor, and you're probably going to have to get older players, which is only going to increase that injury factor. And I'm just not really seeing the avenue here where you're putting together a contender around Stephen Curry over the next couple of years. Not to mention, we're talking about a ticking clock situation here.
Especially how the front office has been being run. Especially with how the front office has been being ran. You know what I'm saying? I don't expect them to turn it around. I don't expect them to just, you know what I'm saying, a light just flash, because it's like you guys had a lot of opportunities. Maybe they can use those failed opportunities and capitalize and be like, okay, we're gonna try it and balls to the wall. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like the front office is who they is. Just like a lot of people might feel like Klay Thompson is who he is, you know what I'm saying? And he probably declined from that, so they probably put him in the corner. He just shoot threes, you know? Hopefully he'll be good at that. Maybe that's his new role that he can create for himself. But like, yeah, for the front office, it's like, man, this is what y'all ended up with, and this is how y'all, you feel me, took the Warriors dynasty. I feel like we could have had like 4 or 5 more years of the Warriors, man. For real, for real.
Stephen Curry is not going to be Stephen Curry forever. Well, he'll be himself forever, but he's not going to be as good as we know him to be currently and in the past forever. Last year was probably his worst statistical season since he...
Yeah, but if you take him out the NBA and put him in any YMCA around the world, we're gonna feel like he's never fell. We're gonna feel like he never fell off. Bro, he's saying that about NBA players. If you take Stephen Curry out the NBA and put him in any YMCA or put him in any basketball tournament, any pro league, any semi-pro league around the United States, bro, you could take him to the most hoodest area in the United States, bro. Take him to Rutgers Park. On my dig, bro. You gonna feel like he gonna get ready to play the Lakers tomorrow, folks. He gonna warm up on you you gonna feel like he warming up on you or some shit, folks. Cause it's just gonna seem too easy for him, gang. Like that's like he gonna always be that forever. But in the NBA, where that is just, I don't know how to explain it. For the NBA, just different, folks. Can somebody please put in a comment how the NBA is so different? Why is the NBA so great? Can somebody please let me know that in the comments? I want to know.
Broke out as a superstar, which is to say he still averaged a incredibly efficient 27 points per game and shot better from 3 than anybody else in the league because he's Steph. But how many years longer do we have of that? We've already seen that Steph does not have the same burst that he used to, doesn't drive to the rim as well as he used to. His percentages on jump shots have decreased a little bit just because of that factor, not to some significant degree, but I believe he had one season where he was just below 40% from three, and that was the only time that had happened in his entire career. How many years does Steph Curry even have left of being the best player on your franchise? That's a question in itself. And the next one is,
hey, did you know you might get a big cash payout if you were in a car accident in the last year? Yep. Even
is okay with how many years that may be, whether it's 2, 3, or even up to 5. How exactly are you putting that roster around him to allow him to get to that level again? I don't really see it unless one of these young players, whether it be Brandon or Kuminga, dramatically improve over a short amount of time.
Or Wiggins could still take that leap, but after what he's been going through, I don't expect him to do nothing.
And even if Draymond at the age of 35 had a really good season and bounced back a little bit, maybe he was actually hitting his threes a little bit, because he did have a stretch, maybe even for the season at large, where his percentage from outside was good, even though it was relatively low volume. Even if Andrew Wiggins came back and Andrew Wiggins looked like the Andrew Wiggins of the 2022 roster, you're still just so far. You're still so far from being able to compete in the Western Conference. Last year, they were 10 games over 500, and they finished 10th in the Western Conference. It's not easy to get a Western Conference playoff spot. You certainly can't coast your way there. That factor also really necessitates a better roster, because you don't want Stephen Curry at the age of 36 carrying this roster the whole way through. That's not a recipe for success. I can tell you that much. There are young players on this team that are interesting. There are guys that you could potentially get something for. Maybe if you shipped Kevon Looney, he would have some value to him. Moses Moody has been deserving of a key rotation spot for a very long time now. Maybe he'll finally get that in the absence of Klay Thompson. My overarching point, this roster doesn't have much going for it in terms of building a contender around Steph. They do have most, if not all, of their future draft capital, but you also don't feel all that secure giving away a lot of those picks, especially super far into the future, given that the prospect of a Stephen Curry-less future is definitely on the table. It's scary. I don't know how I would feel if I was a Warriors fan. Obviously, there is this degree of Steph is the reason that we are even a relevant franchise to begin with. Therefore, we're just going to sacrifice a couple of years of being bad and accept that we're just going to ride out Stephen Curry's career. But he doesn't really seem interested in that, and I don't know if it's necessarily the right move for the franchise. Not that it would go as poorly as the example I'm about to use, but it makes me think of when Kobe was on the Lakers in his last couple of years, where he was clearly not himself after his Achilles tear, but he was still taking 20 shots, and he was making more money than almost any other player in the NBA, and that hindered them for a couple of years. And you look at that as a franchise and you go, well, given what Kobe Bryant means to this franchise, we can accept that, but it's also not ideal. And if they could have just gone in a rebuilding direction from the moment that Kobe tore his Achilles instead, they probably would have ended up in a better spot. Obviously, they ended up winning a title, less than a decade later.
Alright, so I'm gonna end the video off right here. If you wanna hear me commentate on the rest of the video, I'm gonna drop part 2 and part 3 after this. Just let me know how you feel about what you heard in part 1. You know what I'm saying? The only reason I'm recording like this, let me know if y'all like it, but I'm recording like this because I'm actually living in my car. You know what I'm saying? I'm going through a lot of things. I'm still working. I'm looking for a crib. But yeah, just if you watch this far to the end of the video, leave a like, subscribe. Just let me know how y'all feel about the video. Watch part 2. We gonna get right into it now.